Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this is going to be my review for the season finale of Homeland, Season 4, Episode 12, Long Time Coming. And the first thing I thought about this episode, I'm like, this is kind of underwhelming. Now, it really wasn't underwhelming. It was underwhelming in the sense of there wasn't any action at all. And when I say there was no action, there was not a single action scene in this episode. But then I got to thinking, this season is really about how Carrie is going too far and how everyone turns against her. And in this episode, that sort of happened. And I'll get to why, but this was probably the best episode of the season. I really enjoyed it. It was very emotional. All the performances were very well done. There were some things that was very, leery about. It was kind of like, is that going to work? But they made it work in this episode. And really everything about this episode I thought was absolutely fantastic. It made me look forward to the next season. And it overall was just a very, very good finale. Now, it doesn't seem like it was, but there are a lot of things that really made me realize it. And let's just get to this episode. So, most of this episode actually focuses on Carrie grieving over her dad and her family life. Now, I know a lot of people don't really like focusing on that. But this episode goes a little bit beyond that. I'll get to why, but let's just get to the episode. So she looks at an accumulation of her dad's stuff, his shoes, clothes, his chess set, and Matchbox collection. And Maggie asks how bad it was over there, and Carrie says it was horrible. She asks if she's taking her meds, and Carrie says she is, and she can't blame it on that. And Maggie asks what she's talking about. Then the doorbell rings. She doesn't get to tell her. So she looks out the window and sees a black SUV outside her house, and right away there's a doll, who I don't trust. I didn't know what they were going to do with this twist. I didn't know what they were going to do with the twist of Haqquni, but there's no Haqquni in this episode at all. So he asks if he can come in, but she says Franny's sleeping and steps outside. He offers condolences on the loss of her dad, and he asks to talk. He wants to know where Quinn is, and she says she doesn't know, and that he may be back in Islamabad hunting Haqquni, because that's what he wanted to do. Of course, Quinn wanted to kill Haqquni, but he says Haqquni is under the protection of the Pakistan Armed Forces, and he says they have to get through the congressional hearings before they can do anything else. So, and finally, they're back in America. They're not in Pakistan anymore. So he asks her to let him know when she hears from Quinn. She says if she hears from him, she'll let him know. And then Tasreem is on the TV, and she makes a statement about how the U.S. has interfered so horribly in Pakistan, and Saul's watching the broadcast. Now, we did not see Saul in last week's episode, but we see him again here. Basically, she says that no state can accept those dictates and says it's a good rinse if the U.S. wants to break off with them. Amira comes in and tells Saul he's going to drive himself crazy. He's worried about Haqquni releasing the video of him. And he says he's already been fired and was sent a severance check. And he doesn't want that to happen again. And of course, the whole, season has been kind of Saul trying to redeem himself. That's been what the whole point of the season has been about. And really, Saul now really has a problem with that if he wants to redeem himself. Because, he definitely has a pretty big problem with that on his hands, definitely. You can definitely tell he does. So, basically, he tells her he wants back at the CIA to make this right, and he says he has to get ready for a meeting, and then Carrie's out with Franny at the park, and she sits on a bench and is approached by a man. Now, I like what this episode was trying to show. Carrie, we could see last week's episode, really want to get back to Franny. You could just tell. She missed seeing her daughter. She missed getting to be a mother again. She doesn't want to end up like Brody. So I like that we got to see her interact with Franny. And we didn't see her be a psychopath in this episode. She didn't try to drown Franny in this episode. She didn't try to do that. She actually tried to be a good mother to Franny, which I like seeing. So he says he's used to seeing Franny with Frank and asks where he's been. He didn't know his friend's dad. He asks if they were park friends, and he says he was, and she must be Carrie. He says his name was Billy, and that Frank talked about her a lot. And he says Frank was crazy about her and Franny, and always said Carrie was coming back for her daughter. And he says Frank said she was made of straw and stuff and would be there for Fran. And she says he really shared with him, and he says it looks like he was right. She thanks him for telling him that, and he asks about a service for her dad, and she says it's tomorrow. And I like that the episode focused a lot on that. I didn't think the episode was going to focus a lot on that, but they did. They focused a lot on Carrie's dad dying. That's really what it's all about. So she sees a car with Missouri tags in the driveway when she comes back, and the nanny takes Franny off her hands as she goes inside, and she's surprised to see her mom is back. Her mom, after all these years, has finally come back. And I was like, okay, I don't know how I feel about this. I don't know how I feel about Carrie's mom coming back. Because this, to me, felt like, at this point, the episode felt like a season premiere. It did. It did not feel like a season finale. It really felt like a season premiere. First of all, when they initially said they were casting Carrie's mom, they said for season 5. I didn't think they were going to introduce her in this episode. But I like that they did that because we found out a lot about Carrie in this episode, but still, this episode felt like a season premiere. Was it a good finale? Yes, it was a good finale, but did it feel more like a season premiere? Yes, it did. And do I have a problem with that? No, I don't have a problem with it, but it just felt more like a season premiere than it did a finale. Compared to The Affair, definitely felt more like a season premiere. And the person that played her mother, what was her name? Victoria Clark played her mother. And Victoria Clark is a very famous Broadway vet from, like, Roger Hammerstein's Cinderella and The Piazza. She did a fantastic job in this episode. I actually want to see her mother more, because I really liked her character. Basically, she freaks. She asks what's going on, because her mother's been gone for 15 years, and she has to meet Franny. Carrie says too bad, she does not want her mother to see her. And she says she made a hard decision a long time ago and is sorry for it. Carrie says too little, too late, and she asks if she should go. And Maggie doesn't want their mom to go, but Carrie basically tells her to go. And she slams out, and Maggie goes to run after her. Carrie says fuck her, and Maggie says she doesn't speak for both of them. And their mom and I like that Maggie said that. Honestly, what I like this episode is trying to show is that Carrie all this season, what has she been doing? Calling the shots, being the leader here, being the one to tell everyone what to do. But she's now in a position where she can't do that. I mean, she's no longer in the CIA right now. She's in her family life, and she can't just keep calling the shots about everything. And Carrie seems to think she can do that, but she can't do that with everything. And I like this episode showed that, because that's something that I think that the season has showed very well, and I think this episode showed that very well as well. So Saul asks if he knows why Haqquni hasn't released it. Basically, Saul waits for his meeting with Joe. He invites Saul in, says with Lockhart on the ropes, he'd like to bring him in, but if the video is released, would derail any confirmation hearings. Now, Saul asks if he knows why Haqquni hasn't released it, and Joe says he doesn't, but has some questions for him. And basically, Carrie then tells Maggie she thought she hated their mom, and Maggie says she thought she did, but it is the only mom they have. And I like that she said that, because they don't really get along with their mom, but they should try to, because their mom might want to, she doesn't even know what her mom's real motive is right now. So I agree with what Maggie is saying. And Carrie says she walked out on them. What kind of a person does that? Is that? And Maggie reminds her that she walked out on her daughter, but Carrie says she was always coming back and stayed in touch. And Carrie says she can't deal with her mom after the mind fuck of Islamabad. There was so much that happened to her there. And, of course, losing her dad, it's too much for her. She can't deal with it all. So Carrie asks if their mom left a number, but she says Carrie ran her out too fast. Carrie speaks to her dad's service the next day about his quirks, habits, and favorite things. She tears up, says he was a man of extremes who loved she and Maggie like crazy. She says they all knew he had demons, but lived with them and taught how to live with them. And then we see Saul and Mira in the pews, and she says that Frank loved her daughter with that same crazy love and helped with her. And she says Franny won't remember, but tells her dad that she'll remember for her. She steps down, she sits, takes her daughter in her arms, and she and her sister comfort each other. Carrie gets, hugs outside from fellow mourners, and there's Quinn. She finally sees Quinn. She excuses herself, goes to him, and I wasn't really sure how I was going to feel about what they decided to do here with Quinn and Carrie, but she tells him thank God and takes him in her arms. He tells her, hey, and, basically they say hi to each other. She says she was worried about him. He asks if she's okay. She says she is. She asks how he got out, and he says German intelligence helped him, his ex-girlfriend Astrid, and he says he hung back a while hoping for another shot at him, and she says she had a shot of Haqquni, but Azar stopped her, and he says it's all over now, and she says hopefully. She tells him Dar is looking for him, and he asks why, and she says, basically she says, what she said, she asks why, and she says he didn't say that Quinn should stay away from that motherfucker, and at the house, Maggie asks who Quinn is, and Carrie says he's a working buddy, he's playing with Franny, he's enjoying, he definitely is enjoying Franny, he's enjoying her company and everything, so you can see that Quinn and Carrie definitely have a very good bond right now, you can definitely see that, and I thought that was, well done, I enjoyed that, so Carrie pulls Saul outside for a chat. He tells her Joe doesn't think there's any U.S. deal with Haqquni. He says he didn't tell Joe about Dar, but she says it was definitely Dar. Quinn comes out with a bottle of Irish whiskey, and the three of them share drinks. She says she's learned a lot about her dad. She says he was arrested several times protesting. Saul says that he knew it and says he got hundreds of letters rooted that her dad wrote George requesting she be reassigned from Baghdad. And Lockhart shows up and says he would have been there earlier, but that he was meeting with lawyers. He has a lasagna his wife made and offers his condolences. He goes to leave, but the three invite him to stay and have a drink. Quinn pours him a whiskey and they toast, and later Quinn helps them do the dishes and clean up. And Carrie goes to check on Franny, and Maggie asks Quinn if he was in Pakistan with her, and she says she's never seen her sister so thrown, and he says a lot went wrong there. Carrie finds Franny awake and giggly. She tucks her blanket around her, goes downstairs. I thought that was a well-done scene, what we saw, because, I mean, Maggie has no idea what Carrie's been through, and I like seeing that. And I'm wondering if possibly Maggie might be involved with some stuff, because they're focusing a lot on Maggie, and I want to see Maggie more. I like her character, definitely. I mean, she's the one that tells Carrie you can't always call the shots, so I like that about her character, because that's kind of been the theme of this season. So Maggie asks if she's okay. She tells Maggie she'll be right back, heads outside with Quinn. Maggie watches them go. You can see that she kind of ships Quinn and Carrie. I thought that was cute to see. And she tells Quinn that Franny took a shine to him and says he's been quiet. He says he's been thinking about all this, being home, away from all that. She says a normal life, and he says it feels good to laugh. And I like that we saw that, because, I mean, think about it. All season, they haven't gotten a chance to have a normal life. They've been involved in all this shit with Islamabad, but it's all over. So, you know, tonight was fun, and asked if that's awful. He says it's not, and she says it was sad but fun. They stare at each other, and they kiss. And I was surprised by that. He presses up against her, and then she stops it and steps away. She tells him she'll just fuck it up, but he says she won't. And I like that they address this, because it's showing that she's not going to do the same thing that happened with Brody to Quinn. I mean, in many ways, this is better than what happened with Brody. I mean, Quinn's not married. He doesn't have a daughter. So the risk of what happened with Brody is not going to happen with Quinn. Quinn's not a terrorist. He's not involved with the military. He works with the CIA. That's what Quinn does. He's not a wanted suspect right now. Like, he's not like that. So I like that we saw it in this episode. I thought that was well done. So basically, she says she does and knows how it goes. It ends badly, he says, until it doesn't. He tells her he's seen her at her worst, and she says he should be heading for the hills. He says he doesn't want a black hole like Islamabad in his life. He says he wants out, but has learned he can't stay out on his own. And honestly, at this point, I'm like, Carrie, what are you doing? Like, the guy is trying to basically tell you that he cares about you, and you're shutting him out. I understand that Carrie's, I don't know if she's still, like, grieving over Brody or something, but clearly she does not want a relationship right now. I don't think Carrie knows what she wants. She says she hasn't been helpful in that regard. He says she could be, and that they could get out together. She smiles a little. He tells her to think about it, and honestly, that scene makes me think the next season's going to be the last season. I really feel like it's going to be. She smiles a little, he tells her to think about it. He touches her face, she touches his hand there. He gets in his truck and heads out. She watches him, then heads back inside the house. At 3 a.m., she lies awake. She gets up, goes into her dad's room. She opens a drawer, pulls out a box, and there's a rose inside and a photo from his wedding day. And she leads through some photos from a box of her parents when they were younger. And the next morning, she tells Maggie she's going to find their mom, and she says she wants their mom to look her in the eye and explain herself, because she wants to know where her mom has been for the past 15 years. I mean, think about it. Their mom has not once visited them for 15 years, so obviously they want to know what's up, where she's been. So she offers to keep Franny, but Carrie says she doesn't want to leave her daughter again. Maggie says babies and road trips are a bad mix. Carrie relents and hands her daughter over to her sister. Maggie tells Franny to say bye and waves the baby's hand at her. And then Quinn is back at his apartment. One of his buddies approaches him and says, group has been looking for him. They found 3 high-value IS targets in Aleppo, and he says it's a small window, and Quinn says he's out. He's done. He's done with this stuff. So he tells him he's really out for good and isn't going. The guy tells him to show up tomorrow. Quinn says forget it. And he tells Quinn that they're 20% less likely to pull this off without him and lives will be lost. Quinn says he's sorry. He hands him a stick of letters and says it's his job to deliver them if some of them don't make it back. He tells Quinn happy holidays and leaves. And I like this episode to show that, it's Christmas time, because it is Christmas time. So Carrie drives to Missouri to locate their mom. She lands in a small town, then pulls up in front of a nice old-fashioned 2-story southern home, knocks on the door, looks around, and a young guy comes to the door. And she says she's looking for Ellen. That's her mother. He says she's at work, and he asks who she is. She says she's a friend and can't come back. He has to leave as well, but tells her what school her mom works at. She drives a little bit away, then sighs. She sees the teenager riding away on a bike and then goes to school where her mom teaches. She asks about the boy, and her mom says that's her half-brother, Tim. And I'm like, okay, clearly there's a lot she has to tell. Kari asks if she left her children to go and have more children. She asks if Kari can meet her at her house after school, and Kari agrees, and then Dar meets Saul at a diner to talk. Dar says he heard he met with Crocker, and Saul says it was just damage assessment. Dar says Lockhart's resignation will be in next week, and he says if he can get Saul on the short list as his replacement. And I'm thinking maybe Saul's going to get what he's want now. Maybe he's actually going to replace Lockhart, because think about it. Saul was the, leader of the CIA. He's now in the private sector. That's where he's been all season. And now he's out. So he really wants to get back in that position, and he says he must be having a senior moment, and then Dar hands him something. He says it's a video of him and Haqquni, and he's been assured that's the only copy and that it won't be released even if it's not. Saul asks what Dar did to get this, and he says he reached out to Haqquni and offered to take him off the kill list as long as he didn't harbor terrorists in Afghanistan, and Saul says he is the terrorist, and Dar reminds him that Menachem Begum killed British citizens before taking over as prime minister. And I like that he said that, because Saul says this sounds like sedition. And Dar says Haqquni will be in Kabul by Christmas, and Saul asks why he keep his word. And he says Haqquni kept handing over the tape was a gesture of good faith. And Dar asks him to come back and lead them. He says the agency is weighing on Saul with open arms, and basically he's kind of blackmailing him into this, if you think about it. He really is. So Kari lies on a bed in her hotel room when her phone rings, and it's Quinn. And he says he heard a rumor that she was in Missouri. She says she chased her mom down, says she could have called him. She asks how he is, but he says he's wondering about her. He offers to come to Missouri, but she says no. And she says she's in the middle of something, and tells him she has a brother she never knew about. She says she can't think about anything else right now. And he tells her it's a no to him, just say it. She says it's not. She says she's on a crazy road trip like her dad used to take. And she says she's no good for him or anyone else. He asks if that's a no. She asks him not to pressure her. She says she'll be back in a few days and they can talk. They ring off, and she's waiting for her mom when she gets home from school. And she asks if Tim's father is around. Her mom says he left before Tim was born. And finally, her mom explains herself, and he asks how old he is, and he says he's 15. And Kari asks why she didn't just say she was pregnant, and she says she couldn't, and that's hard to explain. Kari tells her to try. She says she wasn't very good at being married to her dad or anyone. Kari says she doesn't get it. Her mom invites her inside. She asks if her dad knew she was pregnant. She says he didn't know about Tim's father, but knew she was sleeping around. Kari says her dad never said anything, and her mom says he was loyal. She says he'd forgive her, then she would do it again until it ruined them. She says her dad always said she left because he was impossible. Her mom says he wasn't easy and could be a circus, but says she was the one that broke it apart. She says she got pregnant and couldn't face what she's done. She tells Kari not to blame her dad, and Kari says she doesn't. She tells her mom she just left, she left just when she needed her. And she says in her first year of college, she got sick like dad and was institutionalized. She says she just wanted her mom, but never called or even sent a letter. And I thought this was such a well-done scene, because you can clearly tell that Kari is really Mr. Mother, and we can see why. I mean, she didn't even get, like, a card or anything from her. So her mom says she had hurt so many people that she just had to stop and do one right thing, focus on Tim. And really, her mom just wanted to isolate herself from everyone. And she says that's what she did, and Kari tells her she has to go. Kind of sounds like Kari. I mean, I don't know if it's trying to show that her mom's like Kari, but her mom is very much like Kari. She really is. I mean, Kari's isolating herself from pretty much everyone. She doesn't want to go with Quinn. She's not, I mean, her mom did the same thing that Kari did, honestly. Her mom asks if she's okay. Kari says she thought being with bipolar meant you couldn't be with someone for the long haul because of her parents. And her mom tells her not to believe that and says it is possible. Kari gets back to her hotel, starts packing in a fury. She shoved things in her bag, grabs her phone, calls Quinn, and she's about to tell him that, yeah, she wants to get out with him. And I thought that she was going to tell him that she wants to go out with him. I was like, okay, this is about to get really big. But then she gets a message that the number's no longer in service. She calls again, gets the same message. She sends a text instead. She calls Dar and gets voicemail. She leaves a message asking simply where Quinn is. And now we see where Quinn is. Basically, we see Quinn is in a hangar meeting for the crew for the mission, and I guess he's not out now. He asks who the new guy is, and his buddy calls out Dale. The guy walks over, and Quinn tells him he's not going, that Quinn is going in his place. He hands him the stack of letters, and on top, we see one for Kari. He goes to lock and loads his equipment with the others, and basically, I think what this is trying to show is that Quinn is now going to basically do his own thing. We don't know what he's going to do, but he's now with the CIA. I think he's doing his own thing, really, so we'll have to see what he does, and that's going to be interesting to see, definitely, because that's the last thing we see of Quinn in this episode. We don't see Quinn after this scene. We don't see Quinn after this scene, so I don't really know what that's trying to show, but whatever that's trying to show, I think it's going to be really interesting to see. So, Kari gets back to town, heads directly to Dar's house. She rings the bell twice, impatiently. He answers, and she asks why he didn't call back, and she asks where he is. He tells her they can't talk out there. She comes inside, and he says he's likely in Syria by now. And she says she needs to talk to him. He says they went dark an hour ago, and they can't reach them. He says the mission is open-ended and are responsible for their own extraction out of Iraq. She says again that she has to talk to him, and he says no. She tells him she saw him with Haqquni in Islamabad. He asks what she's playing at, and she tells him to give her what she fucking wants. She threatens to go at the press. He tells her to talk to Saul before she does that. She says Saul would spit in her face for making a deal after what Haqquni did at the embassy. And he tells her to ask Saul herself. And basically we see that Saul is now working with Dara Doll. So she's shocked, she glares, and stomps out another word to either of them. Gets in her car, takes off. She's teary but drives on. She looks anguished. So basically everyone's betrayed Kari. Everyone has betrayed Kari. Basically, think about it. Quinn is not working with Kari. Saul's not working with Kari. Nobody's working with Kari now. Nobody. Nobody's working with Kari, and I can't say that Kari hasn't done it to herself, because she has. Kari has done all of this to herself. She called the shots. I mean, she wanted Saul. I mean, she didn't let Saul just die like he wanted to. I mean, I understand she cared about Saul so much, but there were certain things that she did that's gotten her to do this. What she did with, you know, how far she took things, how she called the shots, and I said it was going to backfire, and it has. Everyone is against Kari now, and now I'm wondering, I think I know the plot for next season now. I think the plot next season then be Kari trying to get out of the CIA. I mean, it seemed like she left. She did leave in season 3, but I think she's going to try to leave again and actually get out this time. And she's going to try to convince Quinn, but Quinn's not going to be for it because he doesn't care what she says anymore. And I think Quinn pretty much is in the position where he doesn't think Kari cares. I think he pretty much thinks that Kari doesn't care what he has to say, took off without her, and pretty much just thinks, you know what, Kari doesn't listen to me, I'm not going to listen to her. And I think that's definitely very good writing, that if Quinn doesn't really think that Kari, you know, very much cares what he has to say anymore. We can clearly see that they have chemistry, and I definitely think that Kari wants to be with Quinn, but I think she's in the position where she's like her mother, and she's ashamed of what she's done. I definitely want to see more of her mother. I think her mother's a very good character. I really like her. I like Maggie as well. I actually like seeing Kari's home life from this episode. I was surprised by that, but I like seeing it. Is Saul finally getting what he wants? Is Saul actually going to become the president now? Is he, you know, the president of the CIA? Is Dara Doll, should he trust Dara Doll? I don't know. I think he should at this point. I think Dara Doll is, you know, I think Kari is just thinking things too much, and I think Kari just really doesn't know what to do anymore. I think that's really what's going on there. Is Kari gonna possibly just stay in her town and just try to be a mother to Franny? I can see that happening. But honestly, the way they set things up, I really feel next season is going to be the final season. I really do. I mean, think about it. The way they've just set things up, if next season ends with Kari and Quinn out of the CIA, then where can you take the show from there? I don't know. I mean, Quinn's out of the CIA. He said, I'm out. So he's now doing his own thing. So what's going to happen now? Also, we still have Haqquni alive, so is he possibly going to kill Haqquni? There's still more stakes there that's going to happen, so I don't know what's going to happen there. Let's see, what else can I talk about? Tasneem, we didn't really see anything with Tasneem, or we didn't see Azar in this episode. Is Kari going to find out that Tasneem and Azar were part of this? We didn't see anything with Martha and Dennis, so I don't know what's going to happen there either. We didn't really see anything with that. This episode, as I said, focused on Kari really realizing that she's taken things too far. She doesn't have the power anymore, and there's nothing she can do about it. She wants to do something about it, but she can, and I think Kari's pretty pissed off about that, but you know what? She did it to herself. She did it to herself. There's nothing she can do about it. There's nothing that's going to, there's just nothing she can do about it. I mean, I understand Kari wants to do something about it, but the truth is she can't do anything about it, and she needs to realize that. Kari can't do anything about this. She's done it all to herself, and she needs to realize that. But that's basically my review. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me talk about this season overall, though, of Homeland. Let me talk about what I think of it. The season of Homeland, I think, has been pretty good. I think it's probably been the best season of the show. I've been really into it. I haven't been as into it because of The Affair. I think The Affair has been a better show overall. But I still have really enjoyed Homeland. I think it's still a very good show. I think it's really improved itself. I think it's probably been the second best comeback of the year. Best comeback of the year is still Pretty Little Liars, but this is still a fantastic comeback. I've loved pretty much everything about this season. I think this season has been amazing. But let me know what you guys saw the season finale overall. What did you think of this season overall? I know for a lot of you, this really pulled you back into the show. Pulled me back into the show, definitely. I like season 3, but I thought season 4 was so much better than that. This is the Homeland we need to have. Let me know what you guys saw this season overall. I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for another Christmas review. So I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.